everybody, Kent Martz here with Scott Roberts.
Hey guys.
We're Explore Scientific, and he's Santa Roberts.
Santa Roberts, I was, but, well, the holidays are now coming to a close, so. And,
but we still have lots of toys.
We have
left
lots of toys
in the warehouse at the North
Actually,
Pole.
after Christmas, historically, okay, and I don't know why this is, but historically, I've been in the business a long time, January is the time where a lot of people get their astronomy gear, okay?
Christmas money, early taxes,
something.
just
I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
okay? I don't know what it is, but January definitely is a good time to get into some of the last deals that might be available for telescopes and that kind of thing. So today we're going to talk about Explore Scientific's legendary ED80 Airspace Triplet Apo telescope. And we have one here set up on a photo tripod. We're going to show how versatile this telescope is, okay, for both land observations and for astronomy, astrophotography too. So why don't we go to, first off, let's look at some shots that have been done with the ED80 Apo. And we have photography of birds done by Sheldon Faworski. And
I went to the space one.
oh, you got the space one. Okay, well, this is cool. And astronomical objects like this are really, really amazing to look at and really show how a telescope can perform. Now, this was imaged. This is a 3.5-hour exposure, combined exposure, by a guy named Driving Cat. Okay, I don't know his real name, but a phenomenal image of M31, the Andromeda Galaxy, actually shot with the ED80. You'll see this online, and it's very, very cool. So,
Which folder is the ED80 in the thumb drive?
They're all ED80s, Paul.
There's a bunch.
yeah, there's a lot of bird photography, all shot.
Just open one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So let's talk about this. Is set up, Scott,
yeah.
for land viewing. This makes a great spotting scope.
Right,
Right?
it does. It does. And it's set up right now. We've got it set up on a photo tripod. So this actually has a special foot on it, a dovetail foot, that will fit into our equatorial mount, which you're
Right,
going to demonstrate. It'll fit into our alt-azimuth astronomical mount. It will fit on a camera tripod, both for American size tripod heads.
1/4 to 20.
It's a 1/4 threaded
European
size.
is like 3/8/16 to
Yeah, I don't
10
know.
or something.
Right, but
weird.
it takes either one.
Right,
So if you're
right.
from Europe or you got a European tripod or whatever, but this is just a phenomenal telescope. 80 millimeters of aperture. Okay, I took out a lens cell so you could actually see the lenses themselves. And it's a very high resolution.
Three pieces of glass.
Yeah, that's right.
So
ED glass sandwiched
Right.
between two other pieces of optical crown.
And so that third piece of glass, Scott, what does that do for you at the eyepiece or with the camera?
Well,
That's a big effect.
So when refractors were first made, okay, they were single lenses, okay?
One piece of glass.
One piece of glass, and to make a lens, what you do is you taper the edges, you leave the center wide, and it comes down to a taper again. And this is how magnifying glasses work, okay? But you can take a magnifying glass and hold it in front of a piece of paper and aim it like out at a window or something and actually see the image focusing.
Right,
And that
right.
distance from the lens to wherever it's coming to a focus, I don't know if we can show that here.
Probably be
Actually, I
difficult.
can see it, but
It'll be 480 millimeters is what
right,
it'll be.
that's exactly right.
Right.
So
So that third piece of glass also keeps the light, it eliminates what's called chromatic aberration.
that's right, and this was the thing that really bothered most astronomers in the early times. Okay, as the glass comes up to a taper at the edges, you have basically a prism, and so
Right.
light's going to come through. It's going to separate into colors of light. Okay, I think they're beautiful rainbows. A lot of astronomers hate it, though. Okay,
And I can see why. You want to see the real color, not a red or a blue fringe
Right.
around it. So
So a very clever guy named Isaac Newton figured out that, hey, you are splitting up these different colors of light, and that all these different colors come together to make white light. Okay, and he proved that through some experiments. So he started working on reflector telescopes, and we'll talk about that another time. But the refractor, and this is a refracting telescope, the thing that's so great about it is that the entire lens surface, there's no secondary mirror diverting light off, okay? It's imaging with its entire surface, okay? And so you get surprisingly faint and deep with a refractor, okay, because it's so efficient, it's gathering light over its entire surface. It's also resolving fine details over its entire surface. But if you could fix that chromatic aberration, okay, then you've got a better image. And so the first thing that they did is put a second lens in there.
A different kind of glass.
Different kind of glass. So they have optical crown and flint glass, okay? And so they would use these two different pieces of glass to make the edges just as wide as the center. And so the back lens was kind of concave. The first lens is double convex, okay?
A lot of complicated math here, trying to get that prism effect back to white
trying
light.
to get it. But you could only, with two lenses, you can only get two colors of light. You still got to let the third color go, okay?
Right.
And so by adding a third lens on here, okay, and you could add a fourth or fifth lens if you wanted to, but a third lens takes it a long ways to getting all three colors to focus at the same time. And when you do that, that is called apochromatic.
So extra piece of glass, extra math, extra grinding, adds a little bit more expense.
And it's
But
an
what-
exotic piece of glass.
Yeah, it's
an extra
fluoride
low.
or something.
It's not fluoride, but
fluoride,
it is a special glass called extra low dispersion glass, and that's where ED comes
And the
from.
effect of it is, it doesn't absolutely get rid of chromatic aberration. What it does is it minimizes it so much it's really not noticeable.
That's right. That's right.
And if you add a fourth piece of glass or a fifth piece of glass, much more money, much more expense,
right.
real
These,
exotic stuff.
Yeah, this stuff, these kinds of optics are expensive, okay? But you get incredible performance with three,
Right.
okay? Can you get a little bit better? Yeah, but you start doubling and tripling the cost of the telescope. And
Cost for return to
yeah,
benefit
it
ratio.
really diminishes,
Right,
okay?
right.
But anyhow, so with an ED80 telescope like this, we've outfitted it. This is, we're gonna open one out of the box so you can see how, you know, when you get one, how it's all gonna go together. But there's really no assembly. The telescope already has its focuser attached to it. We, just so we could show it,
We'll hold this just in case something goes
right?
something goes crazy.
So we could show, we showed the Explore Scientific reflex sight, okay, which is a great finder to use on this, okay. It is sold without a finder, all right.
It also has a finder foot up here that has either uses the Explorer, sort of like an upside down T Explorer, and
Yeah.
and Meade have the same foot on their proprietary finders, or the Mini Vixen style that we just had on there. This one uses either one. So if you happen to have a finder scope already, almost guaranteed it's going to fit on
One
here.
of the two styles is going to work.
Right,
So
exactly.
that's good. If we spin this around, you're going to see that the focuser is 2-speed. Okay, so you got a coarse focus, and then you got a real fine focus.
It's a 10-to-1.
Right.
So for every 10 turns of the small wheel, the big one turns one time. So you get really precise focus. And you can get down to micron accurate focus.
That's
you can
right.
work
Which
it back
is
and forth.
Actually necessary to get beautiful astrophotographs, okay, and birding photography as well. So I'm just going to take this down. The
Okay.
point of this was to show you that it could fit on a photo tripod if you have one. But let's go ahead and, we got one in the box.
And we're going to show you how to hook this up on a GoTo tripod and use it visually, or we're going to show you how to hook a camera up as well.
Right.
So I'm going to do a little bit of getting stuff off camera here now.
So while you open the box, I'll talk a little
Okay.
bit more about the optics. This is a 480 millimeter lens. So if you're a photographer, this is your first telescope lens. Think of it as like a 480 millimeter f6 telephoto lens, okay, with ED Apo optics on it,
I don't want to cut you here.
right? It is It's rated to have a limiting magnitude of 12. Okay, so think of seeing the brightest star in the sky, which would be the star Sirius, being like magnitude 0. Each 100 times fainter of a star takes you to the next magnitude. With the naked eye, under really dark skies, you can see down to about 6. Some people can see 7th magnitude.
No, that's really dark skies.
This is super dark.
Right.
Okay, this is like seeing the Milky Way like a storm cloud overhead. Okay, this will take you down to magnitude 12. Okay, and in astrophotography, if you keep imaging, you can blow way past magnitude
Absolutely.
12. Right.
So the telescope comes in a really robust shipper box, very stout cardboard, and inside is another box made out of the same kind of cardboard. These are shipped very robustly.
That's cool.
Yep, comes with,
So we have a little sleeve to protect your telescope.
and let's chunk that over there. And so it comes packed in the box with some foam. It comes wrapped up, as you can see, in this bag. Now, a lot of people miss this. Here's a piece of foam, and they miss the fact there's a couple of things hidden right
And
there.
extension tubes, and you're going to need these.
And they'll call and say, I don't have any extension tubes. Yes, you do. Look and they'll come back and go, oh, yeah, I did. Or they'll say, really? I've already thrown that away. Don't throw that away.
Anything away.
Always keep your telescope boxes, because if you ever have to utilize our free collimation service, you're going to have to buy a box and padding from us to send it back.
Or if you want to ship this thing to your friend or on your vacation.
You can ship it to Hawaii, heading to the hotel, whatever,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, you can see how small the box is.
So keep your telescope boxes. I understand wanting to throw a lot of boxes away, but this is a box you really need to keep. So we'll pull
Right.
this out of here. And you want to grab that telescope
Sure.
there while I get this off?
There's a registration card in there too.
Yep.
So you're going to want to register the telescope so that you get your warranty and all the rest of it from Explore Scientific.
So every telescope you get, Essential Series on up, is going to look like the box has been opened. It's going to have extra tape on it. That's because it has been opened, because our quality control department opens every Essential Series, FCD 100 telescopes,
Yep.
our Dobsonian telescopes, not the
check
first
everything.
light. We open them up, we clean them, we check the focuser, make sure it's working, we collimate it, we
Yep.
clean the glass, and then we put it back in this plastic bag.
That's right.
Now, dust is everywhere. We can't
Dust?
get them. Dust is everywhere. As soon as we start putting it back in and it slides on this plastic bag, it charges up with a static charge, and dust is going to suck up on that glass. So there's always going to be some dust when you get a telescope.
That's right.
It's just going to happen. We're not NASA.
Even if you were NASA, there's eventually dust is going to hit it. I was reading about meteoric dust, okay, that falls from the sky, and every year the Earth gains so many more tons of material out there from outer space, okay?
Right.
And I would bet a certain percentage of the dust that actually is on your telescope could be meteoric.
So, one of these days we're going to go up on the roof, Scott, when it's nice.
Yeah.
And use a super magnet, use a rare earth magnet.
Sure.
And we're going to go mine meteorite dust, iron meteorite dust off the roof of this building. We'll do that live
We'll
on
have to
TV.
shoot a full
we'll do
video
it live
of us
on
doing
TV.
that.
So I've unwrapped it here, and you can see it comes wrapped in some nice tissue paper. And interestingly, we have some telescopes that are carbon fiber, right? And so I've had people call and go, I didn't get a carbon fiber telescope, I ordered one. So, no, yeah, you got one. And what's it say on the box? And they'll say, no, it's a white telescope. And what they can see is that white paper I just took off. And they've opened the box, and they see the white tissue paper, and, it's so
and they think
nicely
that is-
wrapped.
right.
They think it's a white
that's
telescope.
done.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah, you
done.
could leave the tissue on, I guess.
You could, but why really would you
Right.
do that? So this has 480 millimeters of focal length, which means from the front element to where it comes into focus back here is 480 millimeters. Now,
Yep.
my dad bought one of these before I worked at Explore Scientific, and he called me and he said, I can't get this to come to focus. And I went down and I was looking at it, and I was going,
Now, by the way, we didn't have the box opening of. There's really nothing to assemble.
this is
here.
it. This is the only thing to assemble. It comes with these extension tubes, because otherwise these extension tubes would make it have a longer box, harder to pack. For visual, you're going to have to use one of these, and it's very simple. This simply unscrews, which is called the tension collar. It's what holds the eyepieces or the diagonal in, and then your extension tube simply screws
right
on just like that. And now,
people have asked me,
oh, we didn't get the diagonal out. I just realized that.
yeah, Scott, why do you use extension tubes? Why didn't you just have like a really long draw tube to go back and forth in the focuser? And the reason for that is that there are times where you have to go
Way in.
depending on what kind of camera or eyepiece, Barlow combination, whatever, you may have to go way in. And if you have a long tube, that is going to go inside this tube, and it's going to block off some of the light coming
It's going to
from...
become a field stop. It's actually going to make the working
right.
diameter of the telescope.
Yeah, you won't have an 80
smaller.
millimeter anymore if you have this really long focuser draw tube. So we created a system where you just add extension tubes,
Right.
and then you can get it out there.
Also in the other end of the piece of plastic is your diagonal, which also goes through our quality control department. Each one of these comes checked out and collimated. So we have a machine, we look in, and we make sure that the mirror that's down in there is flat,
It's really at 90
is
degrees.
really at the proper angle so it comes through. So this simply comes out, loosen the thumb screws, take out the end piece. And I'm going to stop here and say, on the end of that has a sign that says, don't look at the sun.
Do not look at the sun.
We can't stress that enough. If you use this telescope and you look at the sun with it, even significantly out of focus, you're going to damage your vision.
Right.
We sell...
That same warning is on the lens cap here,
Right.
too.
We
So-
sell filters that... Is there one back there somewhere, he's saying?
Around there somewhere.
A solar filter?
Yeah, on the table.
I don't see it.
We don't see it, but take our word for it. There is a
We've
solar
rearranged a little bit, and
Yeah.
things have sort of not where we normally have them. So I'm going to loosen this up enough, and it's going to slide in there just like that. And now I'm going to tighten these back down. And I'm going to tighten them all until I sort of feel pressure to help keep the what's called the diagonal centered up in the draw tube. And I had to unloosen them a whole lot to get it in there. But once it's in there, you want to clamp that down. Now the diagonal will not come out, and you just tighten this up so it won't unscrew. What's the second one for? The second one is for astrophotography. If you're going to be doing astrophotography,
Yep.
there's a whole lot of math. This diagonal takes up a lot of room, so you have to put on another extension tube, and then we're going to show you how to hook a camera up to this here in a few minutes.
That's right.
But there we go. So that's how we set
and another
the telescope. Oh, nice keeper bag.
great accessory for the ED80 telescope is something called a field flattener. Your eye, unlike a camera sensor, camera sensor's flat, your eye is curved. So telescopes, astronomical telescopes, unless they are designed only for astrophotography, are typically designed to have a slightly curved field, and this is totally normal. But astrophotographers want perfect focus to the edge as they do to the center.
So
and an accessory doesn't come with it.
We
but
can sort
an
of
accessory
demonstrate-
is a field flattener.
I like to demonstrate what's happening. If you look here at the table, assume
Okay.
the table is your flat sensor on your camera, right?
Right.
Well, the light's coming out of the curved backside of the telescope just like this, and it's going through the air. So if there was paint spots on here, when it hits the table, the ones in the middle are just going to press down. But as the paper curls and rolls down, those spots of paint are going to smear out, right? And it's going to make,
They simply won't be in focus.
and they'll be smeared and not in
Yeah,
focus.
yeah.
The field flattener fixes that, so when it hits the right point and it comes down and the light lands on the shutter or the sensor,
Right.
it's
Now this is for
Flat.
astrophotographers only,
Right.
Visually, you're going to see a beautiful view from center to edge.
because your eye is curved.
It's curved.
Your eye is a miraculous tool that fixes that for you. So here is the field flattener focal reducer. Comes in a sealed bag with some dissecant in it. And I'm going to,
Is this a reducer or is this a zero power?
this is the field flattener, not a focal reducer. That's a
Okay.
focal reducer?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a focal
That
reducer.
rolled right off his tongue. We have ones that are also focal reducers, But this is such a fast telescope. When I say fast, it's f6, wide field, okay?
Right.
So it is going to probably be as wide field as you need it to be.
So I will say that when people want to start in astrophotography or just in astronomy in general, they crave magnification.
Right.
They want a really big telescope that's really big around and really heavy. And yes, it's going to magnify the things you're wanting to see and take pictures of. It's also going to magnify every problem and mistake you make. And I really want people to find success quickly. And how do you do that? With something like an ED80, right?
That's right.
It's small, it's forgiving.
The shorter focal length, you can make mistakes and they really don't show up.
So let's go ahead and put this field flattener on here, get this set up for astrophotography. And I'm going to need that other extension tube. That
Here, I'll take off the lens caps here.
So, not to have dead air, you just got to take this thing off, loosen them until it comes off. And people worry about this coming off. You've seen just now how much how much I've turned these.
Come off easily.
They don't
That's right.
just come off. So, once again, we're going to remove the tension collar. And I'm going to hang on to the field flattener. And I'm just going to spin this off. It's lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, standard thread. Excuse me. And screw this on. Put the tension collar back on. And of course, we want to make sure these are tight. We don't want to go super gorilla on them because you're going to mash the threads.
Yeah, the tighter you go, you can actually cross-thread it.
We've actually had people that have sent them in that were so tight,
Yeah.
they couldn't get them apart.
Yeah, you
and we
need-
had to use strap wrenches. And I think there was one or two sets we could
could
not
not.
get them apart. So you want them tight, but you don't want to over-tighten them. So now, scoot this over a little bit.
Yep.
And here it is. It's got a barrel just like the diagonal did, right? Just like an eyepiece does. Simply goes in there. And when I feel a little pressure on the tension collar, because I want to try and keep that centered up in that tube, right? And I just
Yep.
sort of keep tightening them down until I get it tight. And how do I know it's tight? It won't move anymore, right? No
Right.
more wiggle.
That's right.
Good and tight, no more wiggle. Now then, let's turn this up on this end so it's a little bit easier to see. That's a threaded ring right there.
Yep.
Okay? You know, hold on. I just fear of that falling over. So we have a camera.
Whoa! Okay, no.
And look, you can get started. If you have a digital camera right now, you can get started. You don't have to buy a new camera. You just have to buy a field flattener and a way to connect the camera to the field flattener. So what am I going to do? This thing right here is just like the back side of a lens, where you hook a lens onto your camera. This right here, you can see it looks like the back of a Canon ring. So this has that thread on it, which is
Yeah.
called T-thread, T2 thread.
Yep.
I'm going to screw it on, just like that. Get it good and tight. Take my camera and get hold of it. Scott, I see the red dot. I'm going to match up the red dots and turn it.
Clicked right on.
And now the camera is attached, and this is a camera lens.
Right.
This is a camera lens.
That's right.
Nothing else
And
but
that
a camera lens.
shot of the Andromeda Galaxy wasn't done with a Canon, but a Nikon. But it doesn't matter because that Canon camera could have made that shot
Right.
too.
Or you can buy one of these for a Nikon. You can buy them for any branded camera.
Right.
You can find a T-ring that matches your camera.
Right.
And so you can set this up right now, ready to go. Here's a cool feature we haven't talked about. I don't know if this is loose or not. Grab the tube for me.
Sure.
So, nope, it's not loosened up. Okay, so this little screw right here, we can loosen it, and there's a channel in there that allows us to turn the focuser, but there's also
Set screws.
set screws right here. There's 3 of them that are on right now. They're tightened down so this won't turn. If you want to be able to rotate this, you loosen those 3 set screws just a little bit. And when you can move it, you stop. You can rotate it, tighten down this thumb screw, and now you've managed to frame up your camera how you want it to take.
That's right.
And this is how you would do it, whether you're taking pictures of birds or deer or anything else. You can rotate that camera to frame it up.
Sure.
the way you
Or a
want.
galaxy or a nebula or something. So.
Absolutely. So it's now set up to go on.
So you want to put it
tripod.
on?
Let's do that.
We have a couple of different mounts here. We just kind of wanted to show
I'm going to move the table just a little bit.
how versatile the scope is.
Scott, I'm glad I'm back on. We haven't done a lot of broadcasting while we got so busy we had to stop. This is really
yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah,
It's a nice
from-
break from
Sure.
the craziness run up to Christmas.
Right.
So here we go. I'm going to hold on to this, Scott, and let you
Okay.
tighten it down.
All right. So we
You
just,
got it?
this dovetail will just fit right in this channel. Okay.
And we're going to get it. There we go.
You just kind of put it at the balance point, lock it down,
And there we go.
and there you're done.
And now-
this lens hood, you would take out the
Take the lens cap off.
lens, and this is a metal lens cap, by the way. Plastic lens caps are a problem for people that have electronic cameras, okay? Because
Outgassing and...
no, it's infrared light from the star will pass right through
Oh, that's
plastic,
right. Yes.
pass right through plastic, and you can't get dark fields,
Right.
okay? Which is something that a lot of astrophotographers.
This is a little bit about astrophotography. Astrophotography is not just taking a picture of the pretty hillside that you see in
Right.
front of you. It's about long exposures, and then it's about taking those exposures and stacking them up. And then there's things called flat fields and dark fields and bias frames where you take pictures of the inside of your cap. So you're actually taking a picture of the
Yeah, and
lines
you're
in your-
removing noise out of
Right.
the image
You
and
take a white sheet and put over it with,
Dust
with even
bunnies
light.
and-
You're getting rid of dust bunnies and things like that. So let's turn this sideways here. And there we go. This is now set up. And this is you can tell the weight's so far back here. This mount is going to move a little bit. There's a nut right in there. You can simply tighten down and make it so it won't
yeah,
move.
or you could slide this a little bit further forward,
Or
which we can do.
yeah, there's ways, all sorts of ways. You don't want to get too far forward, but
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
think you're gonna have to
Little-
let go.
there we go. There we go. There we go. So then we're balanced.
Right.
So now you simply looked in the camera, excuse me, and you can focus on whatever your subject is. Like some of these birds we're getting ready to see pictures of, right? Mm-hmm. So literally taken with an ED80 and a field flattener and a camera. Here's some pictures of birds. That looks like a Baltimore Oriole right there.
Yeah, let's talk a
Fantastic
little,
picture.
also a little bit about how Sheldon captures such sharp images. It starts with the optics, okay, but Sheldon also he does zone focusing, where he is focused at a point where he knows birds are going to go. Okay, this is
He studies where they like to land,
Right.
and then points his camera there, right?
That's right.
There's branches he'll take and cut off limbs to create little branches to create a perch for them.
Okay.
And so his preparation for this picture starts long before he goes click and takes the picture. He plans where the birds are going to be, focuses on that stick, and when the bird lands there, he's not swinging around going click, 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 click. He's going click, click, click right there. He waits for the birds.
And
He
even in those
frames them.
photographs, you can see the structure of the feather, you can see the variation in the colors. You don't see any chromatic aberration, okay? You're not seeing like a glow of blue or yellow or green around these birds.
Look at that.
It is just perfectly
An American
focused.
grosbeak.
All the colors are
So,
perfectly lined up.
and when they're dead sharp, the detail this camera system yields
Yeah.
is spectacular. We can blow these up and literally see the little hairs, well, not hairs on the tongue, but the little bars
Oh,
on the
just
tongue.
tiny details. You
can
can't
see
do that here in
amazing
this
details.
video, but if you actually had the real images, you would be stunned to see how much detail there's there.
You can see this tongue sticking out of that hummingbird right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Just beautiful
It's a
pictures.
great shot, too,
Yeah.
right?
Hummingbirds are hard to take pictures of because their wings beat so fast, and stopping that blur takes a super high shutter speed, and you have to be, I'm sure there's a feeder just off to the left of that picture.
Yeah. But he's flying. He's midair flying. He's not like perched down. So
Look at that. That's a blow up, I think, that one of the pictures we just saw.
Yeah.
Just fantastic. Look at the parts of the feathers that you can see.
Right.
Just fantastic work by Sheldon. Fantastic work by Sheldon. All right. So this is how you'd use it. This mount is a simple mount. It's
Right.
left, right, up, and down. Real simple to use.
Altaz. They're called Altaz mounts in the
So it's-
astronomy world.
There you go.
Okay. In the photography world, it's called tilt and pan.
Right.
All right.
But it's the same thing. So now we're going to move in here. This is a go-to mount. All right. So this mount is designed to let you learn how to connect up with a tablet, and soon with an Android phone and then an iPhone,
Yep.
to make this system work. This is a robot, right?
Right.
And the app is simply a robot control device. That's all it is. So I know from experience that I've got to get this. Now, I hold on to this until I'm sure I'm actually violating one of my rules.
What is
And
your rule?
Here's my rule right here. When you're putting a telescope on a tripod, you always want to stand right here. So if something happens and it
It
starts
just kind
to
of
fall,
comes up against your chest,
as
right?
opposed to, imagine what might happen if I let go of this, and you're doing something,
I have seen
and
people do this.
you're doing something, and you think, oh, I need to get my hat, the sun's in my eyes. You let go of the telescope and reach for your hat, and now
Somebody
your
hands you
pride
hot
and joy,
cocoa
yeah,
and you're-
your pride and joy is now on the parking lot. So I'm going to slide this as far forward as I can get it because we have to balance it, right?
Right.
And there's 2 safety screws. Always, always,
Always use both.
always use both, and always tighten this smaller one last because it's what locks it in. I always stand right here.
Now, another tip that I'll pass along here, the counterweight should be all the way down, okay?
Yes.
All the way down.
On
to
the
bottom,
mount.
On the mount.
Before you ever do it, because if your counterweights aren't on here or your telescope's heavy and they're up here, and the lock or clutch, depending on your mount system, what's the heaviest thing? And this rotates, right? This thing turns. What's the heaviest thing on your telescope now, on your mount now? Oh,
telescope.
yes, the telescope one. Gravity will do her deed.
Yes, it
and
will.
Suddenly your telescope slams into right here and can cause
Well,
damage.
slams into right there, knocks it out of balance, and the whole thing can
Right,
tip
can
over
tip
onto
over.
the ground.
The other thing is, on all of these mounts, there's a little knob down here that
Just
always,
spin it around so that
Yeah.
you can show that.
yeah, and we'll pull these up a little bit. There you go.
Yeah.
This is called safety nut or a toe saver because,
Oh, saver.
because if that's not there and you have the mount right here and we'll say it's over here like this,
Yeah.
and somebody accidentally bumps one of these lock rings and it's going to fall down and you're going to have, in this case, 2.2 pounds laying square on your toe.
Right.
That's going to hurt.
That will hurt.
But when you have a 10-pound counterweight do it,
You're going to the
you're
hospital.
probably going to the hospital. Your night will be over with.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
So it's on this mount. Balancing becomes an issue. A lot of people get really maddening trying to get it in perfect balance. It doesn't have to be in perfect balance because these stepper motors, and we'll talk about those in a minute, these stepper motors and the system is robust enough to overcome sometimes some pretty serious imbalance. But I'm going to show you real quick how we're going to balance this. I'm going to unlock, I'm going to loosen the clutch, it's not a lock, and I'm going to come over here, and we can see that telescope is a little heavy. Now we know that we have to add a counterweight to this.
We just happen to have an extra counterweight.
And these are for sale. It comes with 2, but you can put a whole lot of weight on here. We have people, we don't recommend it, but you know, you
You've
can
seen
do it.
counterweights all the way down the counterweight rod.
JR does planetary with it, and he runs with 18 pounds of counterweights, and he's got a 24-pound camera telescope up here. Takes fabulous pictures with it. So we've got, see, okay, it's
Yeah,
balanced
it's pretty
now.
nice.
It's
Yeah.
pretty balanced. I always want to have mine a little bit telescope heavy. Why? Because if you're in perfect balance, the gear train can move back and forth and lose contact. So it's driving this way. If it loses contact,
Preload those gears.
so I'm preloading the gear. So how do I do it? I go just a little bit camera heavy, right? So I'm going to call that good. Now I'm going to spin this around this way, lock the clutch. I'm going to open the other clutch, and this is where it's going to be a little bit hairy because it's camera heavy, right? Well, we can't go any farther forward because this foot is only so long. I'm going to say we're good to go. Why? Because I want it to be a little bit camera heavy. Now, is it super camera heavy? No. This is going to work fine on the
But
Exos
again, it's
100.
preloading the gears.
But all we're doing is preloading the gears. We're making sure that as the drive gear is turning, it's always engaged with the drive here and the drive here. So we always have a steady, smooth arcs across the sky. So Scott, why don't you talk about right ascension and declination a little bit?
Okay. So imagine the Earth. All of us are familiar with longitude and latitude lines on the Earth, okay? And if you look at the longitude lines, they go from 0, okay, to 23 hours and 59 minutes, okay? And then you have these other circles that are on top of the globe, okay? We start off with just a point, which is 90 degrees north, going down to 90 degrees south. And then these circles get wider and wider until we get to the center of our planet.
The equator.
The equator, that is 0 degrees latitude, okay? And so up here, 90 degrees latitude north, 90 degrees latitude south, 0 degrees in the middle. And so if you take these rings and just explode them out to the sky,
It's the same thing.
yeah, now you have this grid pattern that's up in the sky. And there are stars that are on the 0 hour line, okay?
Right where you're standing has a specific GPS address.
That's right.
The same thing up in the sky has
That's
a
right.
specific spot, just like this
So
is
they were
longitude
able
and
to
latitude.
give every celestial object, every star, a celestial address, okay? But it's not called latitude and longitude anymore. It's called right ascension and declination. And I'll tell you why, okay? Because as this is controlling an east-west movement, okay? And stars, just like the sun, just like the moon, stars rise off the east and ascend to the right,
Right.
okay? Right ascension, all right? That's where that comes from. The other movement, or the other position in the sky is
There you go.
declination. When you're pointed right at 90 degrees north, okay, if you point this way or you point that way, you're declining away from the pole. And that's why it's called declination. Yes, sir. So
Yep.
with these two numbers, in the old school way of doing astronomy, and this is how Kent and I learned it, you would look at a star chart, it would have this celestial coordinate thing, and you go, I want to see this galaxy NGC 4565. And Kent would call out the right ascension number and the declination number, and there were circles on these types of amounts.
And we get close.
And you would adjust it, okay, and get it close onto that declination, this right ascension.
And
And
now
if
we're
you did
pointing
a
at it.
good job in polar alignment,
It's in the eyepiece.
It's in the eyepiece.
If it's not, you start fine-tuning it. Now,
Right.
real quick, Kevin O'Neill, actually, Beverly Solinsky, I couldn't read the last name. She said, lovely, with an exclamation point. Thank you. We like to think it's lovely, too.
Right.
Also, Kevin O'Neill says, which go-to mount? Kevin, this is the IEXOS 100 go-to tracker mount, okay?
Right. So now we don't need those setting circles anymore, okay? It's all done by computer. And the computer allows us to, it takes information of our longitude and latitude, our time on Earth, okay, where you are locally, and then it asks you to polar align it and aim it at one or two bright stars. And once you've done that, this thing's locked and loaded, ready to go, not only for visual work, but for astrophotography.
So let's talk about polar alignment just real quick.
Sure.
This right here is called the polar axis. It parallels the axis of the Earth, right? The Earth spins on an axis, and this is going to point in the northern hemisphere. This is going to point to north, true north, and in the southern hemisphere, it's going to point to the south celestial pole,
That's
true
right.
south.
That's right.
Okay, so there's a latitude right here. We're at 36 degrees north latitude, so we've set this for 36 degrees north. Now, for this to work right and the computer to know where to go, the mount where to go, you've got to have it level in declination and right ascension pointing at Polaris.
This is
So-
called the home position.
Correct. So I have an iPad. We have an app called Explore Stars. You can find it on Android and iPad, or the iStore, the App Store. Boy, couldn't get it. And so, come on, unlock. And the super secret password, don't tell anybody, is 00003 on this device. And so I'm already hooked up. I'm already actually hooked up because we've hooked up to a whole bunch of different tablets and that remembers it. I'm hooked up already with my Wi-Fi. The mount has a Wi-Fi board in it. It's sending out a signal just like your home router does.
Yeah.
The iPad sees it. We hook up to it just like you hook up your iPad or your tablet or your phone to the tablet or to the Wi-Fi at your home. We're hooking up here. Right now, the app runs on an Android tablet or an iPad, a Windows tablet, a Windows desktop or laptop computer. Soon,
Yeah.
we're going to have an app for
Android smartphones.
Android smartphones, and then an iPhone will follow at some point in the future. But here's how it works. It's really simple. I'm going to hit the home button. I'm going to launch Explore Stars. Well, actually, I'm going to make sure Explore Stars is not running in the background. If it's running in the background, sometimes it has trouble. So I just hit the home button twice. I'm going to flick it and make it go away. Now I'm going to launch Explore Stars. And it comes up with the virtual compass or joystick. And there you can see it. Let me get it here where I can move it. And right there you can see it moving, right? So the tablet is telling the computer motors in here, the servo motors, there's a question. The servo motors.
What's the name of the application for the iPad? It's called Explore Stars.
Explore Stars. And it won't say Explore Scientific as the owner, it'll say Dan Dickerson, because he was the guy that wrote it.
Yeah.
So it'll be
It's part of the Open GoTo community.
Don't freak out because it doesn't say Explore Stars. He wrote it as part of
the Open
GoTo
GoTo community. So this is user developed. Okay.
Right. So one of our users developed this. We provide everyone the code, what's ES command language, Explore Scientific command language, and anybody can write a program to make this work. Right?
That's right.
And that's what Dan did. So now I'm going to assume I've got a perfect polar alignment. And so I'm just going to go to the catalog, and I'm going to hit, can't see it probably, I'm going to hit solar.
Yeah. The catalog has pictures, which is kind of cool.
Can you see that?
Deep sky objects,
Yeah,
planets,
you can see that.
that kind of thing.
So I'm going
And
to hit
information about it.
and information. I'm going to hit slew to, and now I've got this set up so I also have to hit go to, and off it goes. Now the tablet is telling the mount how to turn, and the micro stepper motors in there are counting micro steps, and it knows it's 3,812 turns this way and 2,461,000 that way, and it goes to the proper spot. Now I have literally had perfect polar alignments before and done this in public, and it go dead on. Lucky, right? Okay, there's skill involved, but it's always nice to have it actually work really well. Sometimes I struggle to get it to work, but it's a skill. When I go fishing, Scott,
Well, that's polar alignment,
That's
though.
polar alignment. When I go fishing, Scott, I sometimes struggle to catch fish.
Do you?
I do.
You don't like land a bass?
Not every cast. Not
trout.
even. Some days I don't even catch any fish. I fish all day. So it's a hobby. The more you do it, you better.
That's not going to happen to you here. Okay.
So
you're going to be able to adjust this mount and nail everything
Right.
in the sky.
So yeah, you're going to be able to. It's a skill you develop. So we're pointing at the sun right now and knowing what time it is and where the sun is. This is pretty darn close right now.
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
If it's not, it's real simple. Now we're pointing at the sun, which means we have a solar safe filter, and we have a solar safe filter on our finder scope. How I do it is I just look at the shadow it casts on the ground, and I move the mount.
And this is a solar safe
Yeah.
filter.
So it'll go just like that on the front.
Yeah.
We can't do it because
And the
it's
only
not
thing you
cut
can
for it.
see with this thing on is the
The
sun.
You
That's
can't
it.
see anything else. So I can use the left, right, up, and down buttons, and I just move the mount until the shadow cast by this becomes nice and sharp and crisp, and bingo, it's you're tracking the sun now.
Right.
And it's going to continue to track the sun until you change it. Right.
Right.
So
Now,
anyway,
this is a really nice, super compact type of telescope, often called a grab-and-go scope, okay? And because of its versatility, being able to work very easily on an Altaz mount, being able to work on a photo tripod. Look, if you just want a few minutes of sky time or a few minutes of looking at birds or something like that, this is so easy to set it up and go. You want to go on vacation with the telescope? Again, this is the right one to take. You want to go chase a total eclipse of the sun? Wow, the eclipse photos we got back from 2017 were mind-blowing. And so it is really a very versatile tool. If this becomes your first telescope and later on you buy a big one, this telescope can be mounted on top of your big telescope and be used as a wide field instrument, a guide scope,
You can take
an incredible finder.
Right.
I mean, it's just
You can be taking
super versatile.
You can take pictures with your bigger telescope and your smaller telescope at the same time.
Simultaneously.
Take really close-ups and wide field.
Right.
Lots
We have
of
people
opportunities.
mixing those images together, and it's really amazing what amateur astronomers are doing. But you can do beautiful pictures with the system with your DSLR or an Astrocam. You can do science with it as well. We have people doing science on variable stars, even exoplanets.
Yep. So it's a great little system, Scott. Beautiful telescope, great for beginners.
Yep.
You can get this set up right here as it sits for right at $2,000, under $2,000. If you already have a camera, you're ready to go for astrophotography. You just need the telescope, the go-to mount. You don't even have to have a field flattener to start.
No.
That's, after a while, you're going to notice
This is when you start getting picky as an astrophotographer.
Yeah, right.
And they do get picky. Okay, so.
And you say, oh, look, I see that sort of smear, that coma or field curvature that Kent was talking about. And you decide, okay, I'm going to, I want to get rid of that field flattener. So you get that field flattener that makes your pictures better. And you learn skills about processing the pictures and how to better polar align, and you just get better and better.
Right, but it's a great tool for any astronomer. Most astronomers that I know, astrophotographers, they have a variety of telescopes. Some of them have too many telescopes, but
Yes.
having a wide field instrument like this should be part of your arsenal.
There's no such thing as too many telescopes,
Oh,
Scott.
really?
No,
Okay.
there's not. There's no such thing as too many telescopes.
Right.
All right, so, for visual, instead of having the camera on here, you'd take off one of the extension tubes,
Yep.
put the diagonal, use one of the Explore Scientific waterproof eyepieces. We have a great line of eyepieces.
Yes, we do.
That goes from, the least expensive 52-degree eyepieces up to an expensive 120-degree eyepiece that's like putting your head inside of a fishbowl. It's really
celestial
crazy.
fishbowl.
A celestial fishbowl.
Right.
Right. And those eyepieces are waterproof. If you take them out and they get wet, it's not going to hurt them. Scott knows people, and we don't recommend this, but they do it. Put their eyepieces
Dishwasher.
Okay.
They turn the heater off and dishwash.
And then spray distilled water
Distilled
and then
water on
alcohol
it.
on them to get them
Again, we
perfectly
don't
clean.
recommend that, but
It can be done.
yeah, I have yet to hear back from my friends that actually do this and saying, hey, Scott, I got a problem.
I got a
Okay.
problem. And so when you get an eyepiece, and here's a little caution, there are many people who want to know how things are put together. They'll take their lens assemblies apart, and then they'll call us and say, hey, I can't get anything to come to focus. Did you take lens assembly apart? Yeah, why? I want to see what was inside of it.
I tend to be one of those guys.
I've learned to not be on things like this. And then they have to send it back to us. We have to try and figure out which ones go where. If you get your eyepiece, and the first thing you want to do is see how all the pieces are inside, you grab the silver barrel and unscrew it, you're going to hear a little psst. Well, that's the purge disappearing from inside your eyepiece. That purge is what keeps them waterproof and keeps them from fogging up inside. So don't do stuff like that, right? If you're curious about it, call. We'll show you an eyepiece that's been cut in half to show you what's inside
That's
of
right.
it. And we'll show it to you. It's no
It's not as
secret.
much fun as tearing it
No,
apart.
it's true, but then it doesn't
But
work.
then sometimes that costs you. Okay,
Right.
so.
Right. All right, what else are we going to talk about, Scott?
Well, look, when you get a telescope like this and you get into astronomy, we do recommend that you get into an astronomy club.
Absolutely.
Right? You start. I was talking to a amateur astrophotographer today, and we were talking about science that you could do as an amateur astronomer. And she said, Scott, professionals only get a certain amount of time on a telescope. A pro has to submit observing time.
Months and years in advance.
Sometimes, okay. And so, and if it turns out that your particular time slot is not good, unless you've made some sort of incredible arrangement, you could lose, it clouds up, you could lose because you get bumped by the next guy in line. So, but amateur astronomers always have their gear and can observe and collect data at any time. So professionals have learned to work with the amateurs to collect data, sometimes on a 24-hour basis
Round
if
the
they need
clock.
it. Okay,
Right.
so now it's daytime wherever such and such observatory is, where the professional is. Okay, but on the other side of the planet, it's dark. Somewhere on the planet, it's clear. Okay. And if they've got this army of amateur astronomers collecting data, even if it's with a small scope like this, they can get the dimming of a star. They can get the dimming of
Prove exoplanets or all sorts of
asteroids, all kinds of stuff. It's really amazing, and there are groups out there that can help support that. So, and it doesn't take long just to do a Google search for astronomy club in your area, or doing citizen science with professional astronomers.
Scott, I had a customer a couple of weeks ago, and he has a MACCAS 127. We won't talk about a telescope.
A Maxitov Cassegrain.
Cassegrain telescope, 125 inches in diameter.
Yep.
And, he was having a little bit of trouble, talking about collimation and stuff. Technical term, don't matter. And I said, where do you live on Long Island, right? And I said, you need to find an astronomy club. And he says, I don't know if there is one. So I really...
They are everywhere.
I Googled, to turn a noun into a verb, I Googled astronomy clubs on Long Island. I said, oh, see, here's one. It meets at this college. And he was real quiet. And he said,
This was his college?
that's 2 miles from my house. Right?
Right.
Yeah, he has a group of people have the same interest he does, the same skills. They meet once a month.
Yep.
They can help you with lots and lots of
And
problems.
man, you will get 10 times more enjoyment because you're going to make new friends. You're going to learn new skills from these people who have been at it for years. And amateur astronomers, maybe unlike a lot of other hobbies, I don't know why this is, but amateur astronomers will share everything they know about their gear, their observing techniques, their astrophotography techniques, and they'll take you up to a level where they're at very quickly.
And think about it. Imagine trying to play the guitar, and there's no one to teach you, and you have to figure out
Right. There are
how
guys
to
who
play
did
the
it,
guitar.
but-
There's guys who did it, but isn't it a lot easier to go down to the Guitar Center and pay somebody, or find your neighbor who plays guitar that can teach you the chords and how to do it in the
Sure.
fingers? It's a whole lot easier, and it's more enjoyable. It's hard to figure this stuff out sometimes. Lots of people do. I figured a lot of this out myself, but I really wanted to do it, and I really stuck with it.
Sure.
But going to an astronomy club, like using an ED80 to start doing astrophotography, I want to make that as easy as possible. Going to an astronomy club and finding a mentor is about making it as easy as possible for you, right?
That's right. And they're going to get you involved in all kinds of really cool stuff, including astronomy outreach, where you're introducing people of all ages to the wonders of the sky. So
I've done it, a lot of outreach over the years. I really love that moment when somebody looks through it, not a big telescope, and sees the rings of Saturn
for the first time.
for the first time.
Yeah.
And they cry, men and women, grown adults, and it gives them an emotion they've never had before.
Right. They're seeing
they'll-
another world for real.
big telescope where you see the craters of the moon up close literally have blown people's minds. They've had to go sit down on a wall or in
And
a chair
process.
and process what they saw and cry and have a religious experience, an emotional awakening, however you want to term it.
Right.
And it is so fantastic. You have 150 or 200 people look through your telescope, there's going to be somebody that gets really emotional about it.
Sure.
And it's generally the moon and Saturn.
Right.
Jupiter never really done
Thank
people
God not
cool.
everybody cries, but
I think it'd be awesome if they did. There'd be a whole lot more astronomers if every one of them cried when they
maybe,
saw Saturn.
maybe.
So
But anyways, it's great for you to get out there to experience the peace of observing the universe, to learn more, get those gears turning. It is an unending adventure, and so we appreciate you staying with us here to explore the Explore Scientific ED80 telescope and all it can do. Thanks very much, and we'll be back with more out-of-the-box experiences.
you.